Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow. Here are the stories we're following today.
Karen, we begin with new developments in the war in Ukraine. Russia reportedly fired an intercontinental ballistic missile last night as part of a barrage targeting the central Ukrainian city of Dnipro. That's according to Ukraine's Air Force. Bloomberg opinion columnist Mark Champion says the use of ICBMs would be a significant development.
They are the same kinds of missiles that would be used in a nuclear strike. It's perhaps less terrifying that sounds in terms of the nuclear issue, just because you can be certain that the Russians will have told the Americans in advance that this would carry a conventional payload.
Bloomberg opinion columnist Mark Champion says Ukraine's Air Force says it shot down 6 of 7 cruise missiles fired during the attack, and Russia says it intercepted 2 UK-made Storm Shadow missiles, along with 6 HIMARS rockets and 67 drones fired by Ukraine.
And Nathan, President Biden is trying to lock in even more support for Ukraine before he leaves office. The White House says it plans to cancel $4.65 billion in Ukraine's debt. That's about half of a $9 billion loan that Congress approved as part of a $60 billion supplemental package for Ukraine. Republican Senator Rand Paul posted on X that he'll force a vote on the Senate floor to stop this. But both houses of Congress would need to approve Paul's resolution, and President Biden could also veto it.
Turning to markets now, Karen, we're watching shares of Nvidia this morning. They're down more than 3%. The world's most valuable company delivered a revenue forecast that failed to meet Wall Street's highest expectations. Nvidia is predicting fourth quarter sales of about $37.5 billion. That's slightly above the average analyst estimate, but it is below the most optimistic forecasts. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang says demand for its newest Blackwell chips still exceeds supply.
Blackwell production is in full steam. In fact, we will deliver this quarter more Blackwells than we had previously estimated. And so the supply chain team is doing an incredible job working with our supply partners to increase Blackwell.
Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang says sales are poised to double for a second year in a row. Before this morning's losses, Nvidia shares were up almost 200% this year.
And Nathan, the powerful rally in Bitcoin continues this morning as the digital currency closes in on $100,000. It's being fueled over optimism that President-elect Donald Trump's support for crypto and also over potentially friendly regulations. The crypto market as a whole has gained approximately $900 billion since Trump's election win. And checking Bitcoin right now, it is up 3.25%. It's at $97,500.
Turning to the Trump transition now, Karen, Republicans on the House Ethics Committee have voted against releasing a report on their long-running investigation into President-elect Trump's nominee for Attorney General, former Congressman Matt Gaetz. But the tug of war over this report is not over yet, as we hear from Bloomberg's Amy Morris in Washington.
Democrat Susan Wild of Pennsylvania says the ethics panel, which is evenly split between the two parties, voted at a 2-hour-long closed-door meeting, and no Republicans joined Democrats who want to release the report. The panel is expected to meet and vote again in December. Meanwhile, Gaetz met for hours behind closed doors with Republican senators who have questions about the sexual misconduct and other allegations against him. At least one Republican, Senator Lindsey Graham, decried the, quote, lynch mob forming against Gaetz. In Washington, Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Amy, thank you. Well, President-elect Trump is filling out more of his diplomatic ranks. He's named former Congressman Pete Hoekstra U.S. ambassador to Canada. Hoekstra was ambassador to the Netherlands in the first Trump administration and chairs the Republican Party in the swing state of Michigan. And Trump has tapped Matt Whitaker to be his ambassador to NATO. Whitaker was Trump's acting attorney general after he forced out his first AG, Jeff Sessions.
And staying with the transition, Karen, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy say they want to eliminate work-from-home policies for the federal government. We get more on that from Bloomberg's Doug Krisner.
Musk and Ramaswamy are leading the new Department of Government Efficiency. In a Wall Street Journal op-ed, the pair wrote, requiring federal employees to come to the office 5 days a week would result in a wave of voluntary terminations that they welcome. And they said if federal employees don't want to show up, American taxpayers shouldn't pay them for the COVID-era privilege of staying home. But eliminating those policies could spark clashes between the new administration and government employee unions On the other hand, a full return to office could benefit the local Washington, D.C. economy. In New York, I'm Doug Krisner, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Doug, thank you. Well, in legal news this morning, U.S. prosecutors have charged Gautam Adani with helping drive a $250 million bribery scheme. It's a stunning blow to India's most powerful businessman and close ally of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Federal prosecutors say the tycoon and other defendants promised to pay more than $250 million in bribes to Indian government officials to win solar energy contracts worth billions of dollars. The Adani Group is denying the allegations. Adani Group stocks and bonds plunged on the news, wiping nearly $30 billion off the conglomerate's market value.
And Karen, the founder of Archegos Capital Management, Bill Wong, has been sentenced to 18 years in prison. Back in July, a jury found Wong guilty of misleading banks into providing his family office with billions of dollars in trading capacity. Bloomberg's Shaquille Amari says the former financier expressed regret during the proceedings in a New York courtroom.
Wang was remorseful, telling the judge he felt deep pain for what happened to Archegos. Now, prosecutors, they wanted a 21-year sentence because they said that Wang was a repeat offender in all of this because back in 2012, he pled guilty to insider trading with another company, Tiger Capital. Now, on the other hand, his defense, they wanted no jail time, but the judge says that was utterly ridiculous.
Bloomberg's Shaquille Amari there outside the courtroom. Archegos fell into a spiral after its March 2021 sell-off in Viacom CBS shares prompted billions of dollars in margin calls, and that led to the collapse of Wong's $36 billion family office. And the fallout included the demise of Credit Suisse, as well as significant losses for Morgan Stanley, UBS, Nomura Holdings, and other banks.
Well, Nathan, the Justice Department and a group of states are proposing major changes to Alphabet's Google. They include a forced sale of the company's Chrome web browser in the wake of a landmark ruling that the tech giant illegally monopolized online search. In a court filing yesterday, antitrust enforcers said they would also prefer a divestiture of the Android smartphone operating system. Google opposes the proposal, arguing it would harm Americans' privacy and security, stymie its AI investments, and hurt other companies that rely on its revenue. And it's time now for a look at some of the other stories making news in New York and around the world. And for that, we're joined by Bloomberg's John Tucker. John, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. The FBI arrested a man who's been charged with planning an attack on the New York Stock Exchange. More from Bloomberg's Jeff Bellinger.
The FBI says 30-year-old Haroon Abdul Malik Yanir of Coral Springs, Florida, wanted to reboot the U.S. government by planting a bomb at the New York Stock Exchange and detonating it with a remote-controlled device. Authorities found bomb-making sketches, along with timers and other electronics that could be used for building explosive devices. They say Yanir also searched online for things related to bomb-making. The suspect allegedly told undercover FBI agents that he wanted to detonate the bomb the week before Thanksgiving. Jeff Bellinger, Bloomberg Radio.
A warning: if you have an iPhone, iPad, or Mac, there is a security flaw that may have been actively exploited. Apple's just released what it calls a zero-day patch. The flaw was uncovered by Google's threat analysis group. And the top U.S. consumer watchdog will now supervise Apple and other major technology firms that offer digital wallets and payment apps. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will now treat those companies more like banks as long as they handle more than 50 million transactions a year. And Pamela Hayden, the voice of Milhouse, is retiring from The Simpsons after 35 years.
Everything's coming up Milhouse.
The 70-year-old actress's final episode will air this Sunday. The show's creator named the blue-haired boy with glasses Milhouse as a humorous nod to President Richard Milhouse Nixon. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm John Tucker, and this is Bloomberg. Karen.
I don't know if you can do that voice, can you, John? Maybe.
I'm not even going to try.
All right. Well, John Tucker, thank you. Time now for the Bloomberg Sports Update, brought to you by Tri-State Audi. Here's John Stashower. John, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. Knicks, after a 4-game homestand, now have a 5-game road trip. First stop, Phoenix. The Suns without Kevin Durant. The Knicks won easily. Scored 44 points in the first quarter, shot 58%, won 138 to 122. Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns have become quite the 1-2 combination. They teamed up for 70 points. In stores, the Yukon women won by 44 over Fairleigh Dickinson for the Huskies. Legendary coach Gino Auriemma, career victory number 1,217, moving them past the recently retired Stanford coach Tara Vanderveer, most coaching wins in college basketball history, men or women. Cy Young winners, the Braves' Chris Sale, the Tigers' Tarek Skubal. The two Southpaws had almost exactly the same season. Sale in Atlanta was 18-3 with a 2.38 ERA. Skubal in Detroit went 18-4 with a 2.39. When Giants coach Brian Daboll on Monday announced he was making Tommy DeVito his starting quarterback, he talked about the second-year QB giving the team a spark. DeVito is confident that will happen.
I think I bring a certain confidence, energy, swag, whatever you call it, to the team, to the people around me. I think I've kind of always had that growing up, like from when I was even younger. So I kind of just bring that energy, and it's all about really enjoying it for me. I kind of said that last year. It's like it is a children's game. Obviously, there's a lot more money and a lot more stakes into it.
DeVito and the Giants Sunday host Tampa Bay. The game tonight, 8-2 Pittsburgh at 2-8 Cleveland. John Stashower, Bloomberg Sports. Karen and Nathan.
Coast to coast on Bloomberg Radio, nationwide on Sirius XM, and around the world on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
Good morning. I'm Nathan Hager on a morning where Nvidia's earnings remain a major focus for investors. The AI chip powerhouse gave a revenue forecast that fell short of Wall Street's biggest expectations. But CEO Jensen Huang says the next generation Nvidia Blackwell chips are on track to ship with very strong demand.
It is the case that demand exceeds our supply, and that's expected as we're in the beginnings of this generative AI revolution, as we all know.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang spoke on the company conference call last night. For more on the results and the outlook for AI going forward, we are joined by Dan Ives, Global Head of Technology Research at Wedbush Securities. Dan, great to have you back with us this morning. So NVIDIA didn't meet Wall Street's biggest expectations. Did it meet yours? Good morning.
Hey, hello. Yeah, look, this is just like last quarter. I mean, the bears tried to poke at it, and look what happened to the stock since, up 17%. I believe this was just ultimately a press release. They should frame it and put it in the Louvre. It's the start of what I believe is the track to $4 trillion and beyond. Super bullish. I believe there's a stock that's probably up at the end of the day.
Though we did hear just a moment ago Jensen Huang saying that supply is having trouble keeping up with demand. Is that going to continue to be an issue going forward? What can it do to get that back into balance?
Look, to put some numbers, I mean, Street thought this would be $2 to $3 billion a quarter in terms of Blackwell. It's probably going to be closer to $8 to $10 billion. Demand to supply 15 to 1. So it's going to take time from a supply constraint perspective, but that's a high-class problem, and it's sure Street continues to underestimate demand. And that's why, look, as this all plays out, I mean, you look what NVIDIA is doing. We're talking unprecedented in terms of a AI industrial revolution, and they're leading. They are the only game in town led by Godfather of AI, Jensen NVIDIA.
Oh, the demand in terms of the data revenue or the data center piece still seems like it's concentrated in those big cloud providers, Amazon, Apple. Does NVIDIA need to do more to broaden out the demand that it's seeing for data centers particularly?
Yeah, right now at the front of the line, front of the velvet ropes, it's big tech, right? They have a front seat, but behind them it's sovereigns and it's other called Global 2000s that are now going to be waiting in line to go down the AI route. Only 4% of companies have even gone down it. You look at big tech, that's $300 billion alone of AI CapEx next year. So we're talking now trillions of AI CapEx, and guess what? There's only one game in town. It's NVIDIA in terms of the chips. But what this also shows a broader tech, second, third, fourth derivative. Get the popcorn out. It's still 9:30, 10 p.m. in this AI party that goes to 4 a.m.
Did Jensen Huang do enough to allay some of the concerns that we heard going into this report about overheating in the Blackwell chips and that contributing to the production delays that we've seen?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he called it out right away. And Nathan, we've talked about this before. When you're at the top of the mountain, the bears are going to come out of hibernation mode, that have missed this historic run. They'll try to poke holes. there's no poking holes here. I mean, we're talking about production that's ramping ahead of street expectations, and that's why any weakness today, it's just what I believe is an opportunity, as this is a $4 trillion and potentially in the next few years, $5 trillion market cap.
At the same time, up to now, I mean, we've seen such dramatic growth for Nvidia. I mean, it's really been like a rocket ship for this company. Can it continue to maintain that kind of momentum, or do investors need to start preparing for a little bit more of a leveling off in terms of the growth trajectory?
Look, that'll be a question, but this is Mahomes in high school. Juan Soto when he's 14, right? I mean, in terms of like where Nvidia is. And in terms of, as this all plays out, in terms of AI revolution, it's insatiable demand. And there's no other competitor out there. And that's why what you really, it's not even just about NVIDIA. What it shows about big tech, this is real. This is the most pronounced tech spending wave that we probably have ever seen. And it just speaks to our view, NASDAQ 20,000, and eventually in the next few years, NASDAQ 25,000 are going to be conversations that I think happen being led by AI.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak, your morning podcast on the stories making news from Wall Street to Washington and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed by 6 a.m. Eastern each morning on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen.
You can also listen live each morning starting at 5 a.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg 1130 in New York, Bloomberg 99.1 in Washington, Bloomberg 92.9 in Boston, and nationwide on Sirius XM Channel 121.
Plus, listen coast to coast on the Bloomberg Business app, now with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto interfaces.
And don't forget to subscribe to Bloomberg News Now. It's the latest news whenever you want it, in 5 minutes or less. Search Bloomberg News Now on your favorite podcast platform to stay informed all day long. I'm Karen Moscow.
And I'm Nathan Hager. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day right here on Bloomberg Daybreak.